Hello, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a fascinating show today. I've been waiting for this show for a number of weeks. You know, when we drive around all the big cities, all the small cities throughout the country, and we look at buildings, you know, I'm so fascinated with architecture. So my team reached out to one of the leading architects in the country. His name is Carlos Murrieta. He is the CEO and founder of Merge Architecture. They're based out of Arizona, but he has architectural designs all throughout the country. He's a real leader in the space. And of course, when we drive around and we look at all of these amazing buildings, it's just so fascinating when you think about how an architecture expert or how an architectural group puts together commercial real estate buildings. It's just incredible. So Carlos, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me here.
It's so great to have you. You know, we take buildings for granted. You know, people that are not in the architectural field, we're sitting in buildings. We go to work in buildings. We go to community centers. You know, we go watch, shows and concerts in buildings. I mean, everything we do is in a building. And, we take it for granted the way it's built and, of course, how beautiful they are. I mean, you've become known, Carlos, as someone that can really make a beautiful building. But let's pull the lens back before we get started, Carlos, to 30,000 feet and tell us about Merge Architecture.
Well, Andy, we started this company in 2012, and originally, we wanted just to make sure that we will be able to blend nature in our environment and everything what was happening around, especially with community, into these buildings. Like you said, people go and visit these places and, they want to experience, something different. A lot of these buildings, I guess, transmit that, to you as you walk around and you look around and feel the surroundings. And that's something that we really wanted to do, but we wanted to have environment, really close into this.
I love it. Of course, I called it Merge Architecture, but it's Merge Architectural Group. And I didn't want to leave the group out because you have such an amazing team. And we want to talk about that in just a little bit. But before we do, Carlos, what's the process when someone wants to hire someone like you? They've heard about you, they've seen your buildings, they've walked into your buildings everywhere, and they say, wow, this is a beautiful design. What's that first conversation sound like, Carlos, when somebody calls you up and they say, hey, we've heard about you, we've heard about Merge Architectural Group. What's that conversation sound like?
Well, the first one, it's an interview. Is mostly like trying to understand, what you're looking for. We call it like the programmatic, phase. But in reality, we're just trying to understand, what spaces you're looking for, what it's interesting to you, what are your goals, how do you see this building in the future and things like that, and start compiling some of these ideas or, thoughts and trying to start thinking this design process, that basically goes into our mind a little bit. We start kind of like, designing before we start like doing nothing in paper, in our mind, we're just imagining that space that you want.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. And of course, you do so many super cool projects throughout the interview. We're going to show some of the projects that you have done, but one that caught our eye, of course, because, I'm in Arizona as well as San Francisco, and you've got this AZ Fresh that I just loved. It's an agricultural food and innovation center right in the heart of Phoenix. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because when we heard that design and we heard what you were doing for the community with that design, that really resonated for us very much.
Oh, this is a really cool project, I think one of my favorites as well, because what we're trying to do here is just blend, food growing and food innovation and everything related to, I guess, an important source, for us as humans into the heart of the city. So this project is happening, right in the downtown area of Phoenix, Arizona. We're trying to, have places where you can actually distribute food, like the typical hubs, where you have all of these groceries and produce that is coming from different places. But at the same time, we have places where you can actually grow tomatoes and strawberries, and have greenhouses and all of this with a little more of technology. And it also it's an opportunity, where some other companies and actually universities are participating and bringing ideas, how to, I guess, store products, package things, create all this kind of thing. That's where the innovation part comes on board.
Yeah, I love it so much. You've done so many, designs and so many architectural masterpieces. I can't get into them all, but another one that sort of caught our eye that we love so much was the Lady of Solitude Monastery. Let's talk about that. I mean, that's an incredible architectural feat that you pulled off there.
Oh, yes. Well, this is a really interesting project. We work on this project for the group of sisters that were coming from Alabama to try to establish a cloister monastery here in Phoenix. They decided to start this monastery in Tonopah, Arizona, which is, about 40 miles west of Phoenix. They had all of these ideas of things that they wanted to achieve. Basically, they will be living there for their entire life. There's no communication, I guess, with the outside world. They're a cloister, like I mentioned. So for us, was really interesting, to try to understand, their needs and the goals, and I guess in terms of the Catholic life in being in a cloister monastery, what that will entail. So we worked on this project for several years. We finalized our last phase just beginning of this year, 2021. And it's just exciting years to see all of this building all put together and the nuns, living their life inside them.
Carlos, it's super cool. It seems like a lot of the work that you do, a lot of the projects that you do have a social impact. For example, you were involved with the Arizona Impact Center, which is a hub for nonprofits, and it was sort of put together in an existing mid-century building. So let's talk about that, because I just find it fascinating how you're able to do your design projects, but also connect with the community at large that we serve.
I think that's one of the things that motivate us the most. Just being able to create something that serves, people, and it can be a family, or it can be several families, or just the community in general. This particular one, it was an RFP process through the city of Phoenix. They were looking for a group that will be able to provide a good use, to this building. This is an existing building, in 24 and Van Buren. It's really close to downtown as well. It has been abandoned for many years. We propose on our response that this could be used as a place where nonprofit organizations can come and have an office, that can be shared, with just minimum cost, and improving and respecting, the existing architecture of that building as much as possible, just to try to make it a point of connection, with the rest of these groups.
It's so interesting. When we think about architecture at a high level, what's the idea? Is the idea to sort of put together the coolest building that you can, or is the idea to put yourself in the mind of the people that are going to use the building to make sure that it's being used in the most efficient and most powerful way?
I think for us architects, it's really interesting because there's a two-way learning process, where the client is trying to understand, how is it that you do these things, but also in our mind, we're trying to understand how you're planning to live in this building, how you're going to use the spaces. And with that, being able to provide you the best, I guess, design or the best options, out there for you as the user of the facility or the building. So it's an integrated process, again, learning both ways. I consider it really interesting. I love it, as you can tell.
Yeah, you're passionate about, when you talk about architecture, you light up, and that's so fascinating. How does it work? So let's say somebody wants to build a commercial building. They reach out to you. They've seen your portfolio. They've seen you in various publications. They know about all your licenses and certifications. They know everything about you. How does it work in terms of the financial aspect of building a building? Do you work with the builder so that the people that are, hired you have an idea of how much this is going to cost? How does all that sort of come together with the architect, the builder, and the costs?
Well, this is a process that I guess we have been, it has been an evolution of learning how to approach, the best options for our clients. So some of them already come with an idea in mind of what they want and how they're going to, manage their costs and finances and all of the whole package. But in some other instances, when the client comes to us with a dream, we try to, of course, see how we can help them with this. And we can provide, our, connections, to financial portions or feasibility studies or, all kinds of things that, that encompass the final product so that they can get to their goal of having the building that they want.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. And of course, you've done some work with the Gila River Indian community. And one thing that is very fascinating, I would imagine, is that, when you think about sort of cultural values and you think about the beliefs of the Pima community, you probably had to incorporate some of those into your design as well. So I found that very fascinating, that sort of integration of all of those things coming together. So maybe you could talk about that.
Yes, this is one of my favorite projects because it took many months of this two-way education or interaction with the community members. First of all, because when you typically go and try to design a facility, you have in mind the things or the program that they need. They need offices and they need classrooms. They were looking for a radio station. They were looking for a fitness center, senior center, kitchen, all of these components. And it's easy for an architect to just, start, I guess, laying out the pieces, and that makes sense in your mind. But in this particular case, they came back to us and said, most of the buildings, that we have in design, and we don't feel that they have the cultural approach, in terms of our beliefs, and so we have to step back a little bit and start understanding, what are those beliefs? What are they talking about? And understand and learn, that for them, the way of living is really important. Actually, the positioning of things, the sequence, how like the center of the building has a special meaning to them. So all of the buildings suddenly started being developed all around all of these cultural concepts to them, where the sun comes up, where the sun goes down, like the center of the building. And the result of that building, it's completely connected, to what they understand and believe as, their culture. And that's what I'm thinking, this is one of my favorite ones because it was completely out of the ordinary.
Well, it's so powerful because when you think about it, you go into a building and oftentimes you just take it for granted. But when I'm hearing you talk and I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of belief and passion and special meaning behind some buildings. And I find that very interesting. When I think about the name Merge Architectural Group, when I think about that name, Carlos, what's the meaning behind that? Are you merging things together? And is that how you originally came up with the name for Merge Architectural Group?
See, originally, Andy, me and my partner, Clarissa Del Castillo, came, we went to school to study in Mexico. I think she studied also in Barcelona and Spain. And then, we met here in Phoenix, and we felt that in a way we were just kind of like blending into this new culture and this new process. And then at the same time, when we started practicing on the early years about doing projects in the desert, specifically here in Phoenix, we also felt that in a way we were intervening into the landscape, into the desert. So it started, when we got together and said we were going to, fund this company and, get this started. We thought that merge was a key word for us. We were merging as a culture, merging as individuals, merging also with the environment. And but the ultimate one was that whenever we do something, we have this special connection with our clients. We merge with them, get to understand them, learn from them. They learn from us, and it's always this, I guess, two-way thing of, merging and creating something special.
Yeah, I love it so much, Carlos. When we think about an architect and let's say we think about you and what you're doing with your team, after the the plans are all put together and it goes under construction. How important is it for the architect or for you, Carlos, or a member of your team to get out there and sort of, be there as the dirt's being moved around to watch all of it come up as it's moving along?
Oh, I think that's a really important part, because it's not always that same idea. See, you spend all this time with the client trying to understand what they want and what they need. But then once we go into construction, there's all these the variables, and right now, for example, one big one is the supply of, materials. You can't find the right materials that you discuss for months with your client. So suddenly you are required to change to something different. And you want to make sure, that it still complies with the needs or the requirements, the original design. That's on one side. Then the other part is that there's always questions throughout the construction process. Not everybody was involved in the process of drawings and designing. So as these things are getting built, those questions, can be clarified if you are present or you're available, to be part of the construction part.
That's great. And for your, to be there on the ground must be really fascinating to watch your sort of creation come up. Carlos, are there certain materials that sort of, you've become known for? Are there certain materials that Merge Architectural Group loves to sort of build in compared to some other materials?
Well, a lot of the things that we use, we're a little influenced by our past or our education in Mexico. We love concrete. You can see in my back of my wall here, we have a complete concrete wall all exposed. Some of our clients will come and ask us, when are you going to finish that? Well, now that's the intention to have it like that. But we also use, try to use a little more modern materials like, rain screens, which are, walls that don't really have a complete closure. And, they allow the water, and the air, to go through the wall up to a certain point. And that is with the intention, make it a little more energy efficient. So those are kind of the things that we explore with, and we love to, be part of that process.
That's super interesting, Carlos. I love it so much. Now, listen, is there ever going to be a time in the future where a commercial building is going to be self-sustainable? Whether it's with solar panels or some type of, water coming from rain that gets, cleaned out where the water is all self-contained, like a self-contained commercial unit?
There's a lot of architects trying to do this, and this is like a super interesting, part of architecture and engineering and evolution, into the building industry. I know of a few homes that have been designed specifically in Germany, that they call it the triple zero. They don't consume energy. They actually recycle and reprocess, their own water and electricity. And then also, when the time of or the end of the life of this building it's done, all of the components of this building can be recycled into something else. And that's, what the triple zero comes in place. But yeah, it's something that, of course, it will be super interesting, to start seeing develop, more commonly.
I love it, the triple zero. That's really super cool. And by the way, I love the concrete wall in the background. It looks amazing. Now, Carlos, let's talk about entrepreneurship. You've built this great company. You've got a great team working there with you. When you think about building a team, when you think about building an organization or a business, oftentimes we talk to the entrepreneurs on the show, and we always understand that, corporate culture starts at the top. How important is the corporate culture at your business? How important is it that everybody sort of is on the same path, sort of thinking the same way toward a common goal?
That's one of the most, interesting aspects of, having a firm, especially because there's a portion of this phase, where you start dealing with people that has, really good design skills. They're more intelligent sometimes, that you and you need to start managing, all of these components, to make sure that you get to the goal of, being able to provide our clients, with the best design options out there. So in terms of the culture, and you can see, I'm sitting here on my desk, all around me, there's the whole studio. I don't work in an enclosed office. I'm totally open here. My employees and my staff, are able to hear anything that I'm talking with our clients and contracts and, the fights and the good things. So it's a way, for them to learn and experience this. And I was an employee before and I worked on other firms before. There was nothing like this, so I'm providing that experience with hopes and the goals, that they are able to get into this fast speed track, to learn more about practicing architecture.
Yeah, I love it, Carlos. It's an open commode. And of course, your people working with you can learn from you and learn from each other. And I love that so much because it just builds a great loyalty to the company. Now, Carlos, I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time. I know you've got some big, amazing architectural designs on tap that you're working so hard on to get out on time. So thank you so much for cutting some time out for me today. But I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship, to give back to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show. Younger entrepreneurs, they're watching the show and maybe they're hitting a roadblock. Maybe they're hitting a pothole in the road, or maybe they're hitting a wall they can't get over. So I'm hoping you might be able to give some insight to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show about what it takes to get through a tough time or a pothole in the road and coming out the other side in a very positive way, being thankful, of course, that they went through that pothole and were able to get through it.
Absolutely. I get the opportunity and the privilege, to work with a lot of, young people, especially as president of NOMA Arizona, which is a national organization of minority architects. I get, to interact with a lot of people that are still at school and people that just graduated and are trying to, find ways to move forward into their career. One of the most important things is just to, be proactive, Don't wait for somebody to, call you and tell you, I'm looking for you. You need to go out there and basically express your ideas, look for what you believe in and try to participate, engage, with the rest of the community, especially architects, engineers, construction. Another one is that, you need to learn as much as possible while you're young. There's a lot of things related to our career, being software, construction methods, and things like that, that the more you learn, the more valuable you become, for somebody to look for you and want to have you as part of their firm. So that's my biggest recommendation, just to become indispensable on this process.
That's great, Carlos. It's great advice. I mean, that's almost a Harvard MBA you just gave to the entrepreneurs. Rewind what Carlos just said. I mean, that resonates for me. Keep pushing, surround yourself with experts, keep learning, never give up. And at the end of the day, you're going to get through those potholes for the entrepreneurs watching the show or the younger entrepreneurs having a tough time, and keep on building and surround yourself with people that not only believe in you, but more importantly, you believe in them. So, Carlos, this is just a great time to have you on the show. You're doing such fascinating work with the company at Merge Architectural Group. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the .com magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight show today. I'm going to have you back because I know you've got some new designs coming out. So once they're up, we're going to bring you back. We're going to show some photos of those designs because I think from what I've read and what we've talked about in the pre-interview, there's some very remarkable architectural feats coming out from your company and from your firm. So congratulations on that. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Absolutely, Andy. Thank you very much for having me.